All right. Good morning to everybody out there. It's always, as always, please tell us where you're from. We have amazing, interesting guest speaker who have had the chance of having a chat to before we commenced. Thibault Dousson, who's from, of course, the country manager, general manager of Lenovo South Africa. And as I discussed with, it's technology has been the big drive. It's the number one challenge, the number one request from SMEs around South Africa and possibly around the world. But before we start, please let us know where you're from. And as always, if you've got any questions that you'd like to ask throughout, please pop them onto the chat line, and I will do what I can to catch them and, of course, put them forward. And then, of course, as we do know, if something does go wrong, and we know with technology sometimes it can, internet can dip and power outages and transformers exploding. We've been through that, but I've got a panic button here which I will push and refresh the system, and we'll get back into it. So, but again, guys, a big welcome, and it's always nice to see familiar faces coming back. And we do know over the past 2 years now than ever before that these engagements, these sessions, these webinars, platforms have been insightful. And of course, really helping our SMEs adopt different ways of doing business. Hi, Angelique from Cape Town, Richard from Johannesburg, Devesh from Belito. And what's always amazing, historically prior to pandemic, we did hundreds of events a year, and you normally had them fairly localized. But now with the great opportunity of engaging with people from all over South Africa, and of course all over the world. And Thibault, we've had on these webinars, people from New York City, from Bangladesh, from Sydney. So it goes beyond our borders, and it's quite interesting to see. Larissa from Pretoria, good to see you. So guys, just in a nutshell, we'll kick off in a few moments and I'll give you a formal introduction. But if you've got any questions that you would like Thibault to answer, please put them onto the chat. As I said to you, and I always say to you, if I can't get to these questions, we will respond after this webinar. And again, I know we get this question on every time we host a webinar. The replays go on and on for months, and we get thousands and thousands and thousands of attendees to our replays and of course to the live event. Lorraine, good morning. So the engagement is great. All right, Mary, hi Mary from Centurion, good to see you this morning. All right, first of all, I'd just like to introduce our topic, growth of the hybrid workplace, technology driving SMEs of the future. And of course, our guest speaker, Thibault Dousson, who is, as I said before, for those who've just come in, he's the country general manager at Lenovo South Africa. I've got a few great questions here, but as I said to you guys out there, Jack, Ernest, Mohaki, if you've got any questions, please pop them onto the chat, and I'll do my best to be able to do that. But before we start, Thibault, a very good welcome, and thank you very much for taking your time out this morning. It's a privilege having you, and not only that,
it's a privilege to be here. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Absolutely, and also for me to personally thank Lenovo South Africa for being one of our national partners. This indicates the commitment that your organization has to the SME sector, not only in South Africa, but around the world. And it's because of organizations like yours and people like you, we can do what we do. So we're truly grateful for your involvement. And I know this morning, again, like we've always done, we're going to make a big difference to many out there. Howard, Rupert, Lorraine. So before we start, maybe a bit of insight into yourself and what role you play at Lenovo South Africa.
Yeah, so I'm Thibault Dousson. I'm French. I actually come from France. I landed in this country a little bit by accident, but by chance, about 18 years ago. I was here on a 2 years contract and I never left. Love the country so much. Love the people. I'm not going to tell you about the weather, but everything here is back home. So I stayed. Plus, you're a great rugby nation country. So what a wonderful place to be living. So what I do for Lenovo South Africa, I'm the country general manager. I've been looking after South Africa, but not only the SADC region as well. And I am mostly responsible for what we call the intelligent device group, which is your PC, your laptop, your accessories, displays, etc. And voilà.
Thibault, thank you for that. Now, I'm really happy you mentioned the word rugby. I mean, I know France is a great rugby nation, like South Africa. That's always wonderful to see them on the field. And so let's see what happens at the coming months.
It's wonderful now. It hasn't been wonderful for the last years, but they've been playing very well lately. So I said I'm very a happy supporter of rugby because my two favorite teams are number 1 and number 2 in the world. So, and they're actually meeting in November in France. So it's going to be very exciting to watch.
Absolute cracker. But coming up to technology, Thibault, like you do and like we have over the past few years, the NSBC conducts the biggest surveys of their kind. And the reason why we conduct the biggest small business surveys 4 times a year is for us to really establish the needs, the challenges, the pain points, the wants of SME South Africa. And what's always been amazing is that prior to pandemic, the number 1 challenge for an SME was access to funding. Well, that's not the case anymore. It's not the case anymore. It's in the top 3. But the right technology for my business is number 1 by far. And it makes sense. And I think that if it wasn't for technology and the solutions available over the past 2 years, very few SMEs not only SMEs, I think very few corporates would have been able to survive and prosper that they have. And I think that what we have to say is that, we know that the digital era was coming, but I think what the pandemic did, it just sped up the process. The digital world is here, sped up the process, and the solutions out there are amazing. And Thibault, like you would know, is that the number 1 challenge is the right technology for my business. But this is where SMEs, decision makers and business owners who run these SMEs, it's very challenging them because there are so many solutions out there. And the question is, what is the right solution for my business or for me as an individual working in an SME? And this is what we've made a big effort trying to overcome, will help our SMEs overcome over the past 2 years. So truly grateful for your time, and I know we're going to come to it. But Thibault, I've got my first one coming up here. In this last year, employees have embraced working from anywhere as the office became wherever their technology is. Work is no longer confined to a traditional office, with many employees choosing never to return to a traditional office environment. Is this the case for SMEs in South Africa? What are the trends in this industry space? And what does this mean for South African small businesses in particular? And how should they be planning for transitional work from home or work from anywhere scenarios when you consider their staff complements are by definition much smaller?
Yeah, so that's a big question. So allow me to peel back a little bit. Obviously, what happened in March 2020, nobody could actually put that on paper. We never knew it was going to happen. So we basically had to work from home, whether we liked it or not, right? We were completely forced into this. So it wasn't really a choice. And I remember a lot of SMEs, but a lot of corporate enterprise and even banks, they rushed into technology because now all of a sudden they had to basically make sure they could perform their task from home. And so the right level of technology was basically any sort of technology I can have to be able to connect and to be able to do my task and to be able to work. So funny enough, we didn't ever had a chance to even think about the right technology. We said, okay, well, any type of technology will do. And it didn't matter where you were. It didn't matter if you were a small company, it didn't matter if you were a teacher, it didn't matter if you were a big corporate. You basically had to have access to technology. But even before that, you need to have access to connectivity. And I remember the conversation I had with my management team and said, well, we need to make sure that everybody is able to be connected. Never mind having the right level of hardware to be able to function, right? Now, 2 years down the line, what happened is that people realized that technology is here. We have to use it to support our business, and we need to start pivoting in a sense from a physical to a digital goal. So, how do we do that? How do we use technology to be better? And then the other question as well that comes up is that okay, well, technology is one thing, but how do I have do I carry on working from home? Do I come back to the office completely, or do you have something in the middle, which is called an hybrid positioning? So I think from a technology point of view, and so people just realize fairly quickly, well, they needed to equip the employees with the right level of technology, whether it's a laptop, whether it's it's a PC. But they need as well to equip them with the right level of cameras, which we never really thought about. To be honest, the cameras was really a gimmick in the past. Now it's actually quite important. You need to have the right level of cameras, the right level of speakers as well, the right level of microphone. All of that actually to give a little bit more ease of doing business and being able to communicate in the right way. Then you move across to collaboration tools. Which one do I use? We were talking about this, Mike. You use Webinar Jam for doing your webinar, but there's all sorts of collaboration tools out there, whether it's Team, whether it's Google Meet, whether it's Zoom. All of these collaboration tools need to be embraced. Which one is the best for you? So it depends on your business and what you want to do with it. I would imagine that you wouldn't use Zoom for a webinar. I do, for instance, because I've got when there's thousands and thousands of people, Zoom seems to be a bit more stable. But Webinar Jam is probably the right tool for you in that respect. And then it's all good and well to obviously have the right hardware, the right collaboration tool, the right software, but you need to train your people as well. How do we use those tools? What sort of trainings do I need? How do I use them effectively? So that's another question you need to ask yourself: is that do you have the right level of training for people? And never mind, if I go even further down, says, do I have the right policies in place? So when do we use those tools? When we don't use those tools, what sort of rules and regulation around them as well? And then never mind about security, because now you go into starting to share information with the entire world. You don't necessarily know who's actually at the end of it. And sometimes you connect into places that are not safe. So how do you make sure as well that your technology is secured and your policies are as such that it protects your company, your data, your people, and your hardware in a sense as well. So all of those questions needs to be asked way before you can actually start to deploy this in an effective manner. Being said that, the SMEs didn't have a choice, right? We had to basically do that fairly quickly. The nice thing with SMEs, and I have to commend you guys for that, is that you're very quick to adapt. So the adaptation is fairly quick. You're very nimble. So, and then a lot of SMEs actually starting to pivot their business model. And I've seen that in restaurants. For example, I always use the same example because I think it's such a good one. I've seen a lot of restaurants turning the kitchen into a dark kitchen, and because they realized that the customers were not coming to them anymore, so they had to basically deliver their goods and services to the customer. So they still need the kitchen, but the kitchen is already used now. There's no more tables or accepting customers inside, and they basically start delivering the food. Now, it is a bit of a bizarre situation when you think about it, because obviously the restaurant being able to eat at the table and there's an ambiance to it. So how do you turn this into that ambiance in a certain way so that your experience to your customers is the same? So I use an example. There's a sushi company that I use quite sometimes now, where I used to go to their place. Now they're actually delivering the food to me, and you should see the package delivered into. It's very nice, very high level, up market. Now all of a sudden, it's just not just a sushi delivery. It's actually a good experience because you've got such a nice way of packaging your product. So those are the things that SMMEs actually start to look at and say, okay, so how do I deliver that in physical experience to a digital experience, but it's still a good and proper. So those are the things that are they're quite interesting at the moment, because it pushes people to think differently, and technology is obviously here to help to support that sort of pivot.
Thibault, yeah, thank you for that insight. And research tells us employee productivity decreased in summer 2020. Indicating that employee burnout and loss of work-life balance were key factors. Is this something that is affecting the small businesses in South Africa? And if yes, how can innovations like smart collaboration help turn these statistics around?
Yeah, so it's definitely the case. Huh? I mean, I've got a report that the SME owners' confidence in the business growth, I think, decreased to 30%. And I think that was last quarter, whereas it was at like 72% about 2 years ago. So while everybody was like being super positive about working from home and productivity was up, at least at the beginning, a year and a half down the line, you realize that's not the case anymore. And the reason being, I guess, is that all of a sudden there is a blur line between your social life and your work life. And so everything is melted together. And we realized that a lot of people were basically working all the time, whether Saturdays and Sundays at night and evenings and whatever, and really looking after their own well-being, which was a real issue. I've got personal experience as well from the people that are working from home at Lenovo. Some people were single and basically being on their own for like 5, 6, 8 weeks. And so mental issues starting to come in because people need, contact and interactions, and those people were not getting enough. So that definitely starting to take its toll. What we realized, well, there's worked on SMEs, right? That working from home 100% of the time is not necessarily the best for productivity, and but working, going straight back to the office as well. A lot of people realizing that's not exactly what they want to do, because then again they're going to sit again in traffic, they're going to take time to get to their meetings, they're going to be late. There's all sorts of aspect that is going to be tough again to go back to the office at 100% of the time. So that means that the reality is that the hybrid work model seems to be the right thing to do to have that productivity up. So a lot of people are quite happy to have the best of both worlds, if you will. Being able to work from home sometimes and to work in the office other times. And there, SMME is going to have to look at this in a very pragmatic way, i.e., I think there's 4 steps in a way, and I've worked at it for quite some time. So I think there's 4 steps that you need to look after. So the first step really is to create your hybrid workplace or hybrid strategy with your employees. Talk to them, ask them questions. What actually makes working from home a great experience? What makes working from the office a great experience? And take that information and start thinking with your employees and with your team. What does it take to be successful in both directions? So I don't know. I like working from home because I'm able to go to gym, or I'm able to pick up my kids, or I'm able to to work later at night because that's the time I'm able to do so. So flexible hours time, great. In terms of collaboration, working in the office is much better because you can get your little issues worked out a little bit faster. There's a lot of things to be said about building your culture face-to-face rather than online. It's actually a lot easier. So how do you take all these examples and actually make it like a grand experience rather than trying to put policies in place without talking to your employees? So involve them in the process, right? So we talked about getting the best of both worlds, and then put boundaries in place. It's not because we work from home or we've got an hybrid model that all of a sudden everything goes down out of the window, right? You need to have certain sets of policies and boundaries in place. Your employee will thank you for it because they know what's expected of them, right? Tell them when they can come to the office. Tell them when it's important to come to the office. And tell them when it's okay to work from home. And try to build that up into something that is policy driven and with boundaries in place, and all of a sudden your employees will thank you because they know what's expected and they know when they can work from home and when they can actually work from the office. And then the last thing as well is use the tech as an enabler. So don't give the tech to the people for working from home because that's not going to work. You need to make sure the connectivity is up. You need to make sure that they have communication tools in place, whether it's microphone, camera. We talked about this now, and but even security software. How do you make sure that your data that you share online and on videos are encrypted and protected, etc., etc. So those things that need to be thought through and put in place before you can start that hybrid strategy, which personally I believe is the right approach. I know we talked about this, Mike. Not every work or not every companies can afford to work from home or have an hybrid model, because there are some jobs that you have to do it from work, right? But from the overall idea is still remains the same. I think if you are able to put in place an hybrid model, I think it's the best. The best because it gives flexibility to your employees. They will eventually attract talent. And we were talking about it just now, is that I believe that SMMEs now can actually hire people from anywhere. And even if the business is in Johannesburg, they can hire from Cape Town or Durban. That might actually allow them, first of all, to attract talent, because people want to say, well, I want to work for a company that gives me or allows me to have the flexibility to do both. And in the same token as well, if you start hiring people from different places in the country or even outside the countries, now all of a sudden you can open up new market opportunities, and you don't really have to be physically present. Lots of good stuff is going to come from that pandemic, and SMEs are always at the top. It's supposed to get impacted the most. Financial crisis impacted the SMEs more than any other business, but they are the one that always see the opportunity and start pivoting the business so that they can actually capture those opportunities and create value. So I think it's Winston Churchill said, you should never waste a good crisis. Well, I believe the SMEs should have that if there's a crisis. What is the solution that I can provide to get out of this stronger?
Great, yeah, Thibault, thank you for that. You're right. The hybrid model is the fine balance. It seems to be the most popular amongst business out there, and it's like what suits your business and for certain types of people. So, and I think that's for everyone out there, just to choose that kind of model that best fits their own business. Thibault, part of what's making work from home an overall positive experience is the wide adoption of collaboration software. Something nearly all, 85% of companies have adopted. This includes smaller entities. Where does Lenovo play when it comes to smart collaboration tools? What are the offerings, and how can SMEs take advantage of these to better empower hybrid working environments?
Yeah, so again, a good question. So at Lenovo, but I guess it's the same in a lot of manufacturing companies and product. We look at what our customer wants, and customer, because of the last 2 years of working from home, they want to have they expect different things from the technology. Okay, so while you and I didn't really care about camera quality about 2 years ago, because it really was a gimmick. Now they want HD cameras. They want cameras that can follow you. They want cameras that actually gives a good representation of who you are. Because when you try to do a sales pitch, when you're trying to do communicate with your employees, it's actually important that you've got the right lighting, you've got the right cameras, and it's not jittery, so that it doesn't distract from the message that you're trying to give, right? So what can be true for cameras can be true as well for accessories like your microphones, for instance, or speakers, right? So we've developed a lot of 360 degrees type of speakers and microphones, meaning that wherever you are in the room, you can actually hear it very well. And then there's a noise cancelling as well technology that comes to play, so that I'm in the meeting room right now. You probably can't hear it. There's lots of people talking next to me, and you can't hear them because that noise is completely cancelled out. So that's something that comes quite important. So we've got an array of product that we've put forward to make sure that it actually answers the request from our customers. And then we talk about security, and I think it's important, because now all of a sudden, and that was true for the banks, but I think it's true for the SMEs as well, is that all of a sudden now your data is outside. It's quite scary. So you've got a laptop with all the data inside, you've got all your information inside. How do you protect this? how do you protect your data? Well, we've got all sorts of encryption technology now that's come to play into our laptop to make sure that the data gets protected. How do you protect your device? Again, another thing. So we've got some TPM chips inside the laptops, meaning that if you take the hard drive out, if it's not associated to the TPM chip that sits on the motherboard, then the hard drive cannot be read. So that another layer of protection. There's online protection that needs to be in place. If you work from home or if you work from anywhere, because really the office is wherever you're connected, right? Let's be honest. We say work from home. Sometimes it's not home. Sometimes it's just a coffee or a coffee shop that you like, or even a sports place, whatever the case may be. So you've got to be careful what's happening with your Wi-Fi security. So we've got that embedded into our laptop now, whereas it will pick up if a Wi-Fi connection is not secured. And if it's not secure, it's not going to give you a full connectivity. It's going to give you a connectivity that's able to do some things, but not all of it. So that at least your data, again, is protected. And then your identity needs to be protected. So as a user, as an online user, what we're trying to do now is to have, for instance, chip fingerprint or facial recognition with Windows Hello, to make sure that the people that are actually using the laptops is the owner of that laptop. So those are the myriads of things that Lenovo came up with in the past 2 years, but there's much more that's going to come our way, whether it's flexible technology or flexible display technology. I think I've got a list of quite cool technology that's gonna, we're gonna basically say goodbye to the passwords now, and all AI is gonna pick up who we are. We're gonna make sure as well that all the techs that are coming into the fore is going to be sustainable, because it's a big thing that's happening at the moment as well in the country, or in the world rather. And then the monitors as well. Monitors is going to be big, right? So every time I've got a friend of mine that wants to buy a laptop or technology or PC or whatever, I always say to them, I say, well, think about your laptop as your movable device, but if you're at home, you kind of want to have a bigger screen, right? You want to have a bit more real estate to work with. So displays now, sales are going crazy, because people want to have an external display so they are able to work in a better way. So we're bringing a lot of displays at the moment with lots of like pretty funky technology where you can connect your laptop and your display does the rest, and integrated cameras, speakers integrated, Wi-Fi technology directly into the display. So lots of really good things really at the moment. It's quite nice. And again, crisis actually proved one thing, is that it pushes people to find different ways to capitalize on those issues. And Lenovo was no different. We actually realized what was needed and what people wanted, and we're bringing that to the fore.
Yes, Thibault, thank you very much for that. As you say, we've got to all choose the right technology for what we are doing. If you're big on webinars, or if you're big on online meetings or virtual conferences, choose what's right for you and your business. And that will allow you to maintain that professionalism, and that, of course, give you the opportunity to exceed beyond the norm and be able to compete with any business out there. And I think that's what technology allows us to do. A great online presence. If you're a small business with a great online presence, with the right technology, you can compete with any big brand out there. And I think that's the beauty of what's come out of the pandemic for small businesses, is that, we've adapted, we've adopted, we've tried new things, we've learned new things, and technology is the top of the pile on that. So from that side is that it represents a great opportunity for business owners out there who run these SMEs out there to be able to get ahead in a positive and accelerated direction. But Thibault, I'm very grateful for your time. I'm not sure if you may have a closing message for our guest this morning.
You know what? My closing message is that carry on, push through, try and find a way of going from a physical, in a sense, to a digital solutions. Push the boundaries, use the technology in the right way, make sure that technology works for you, not for everybody else, and find niche where the others actually haven't gone through yet, And what I always say as well to the SMMEs is that just make sure that training is up to scratch, because people need that and use technology to to really increase your possibility of sales, because I think that needs to work for you first and foremost. Make sure you empower your people. Make sure you train your people so that they know what technology can do for them, and then trying to find new ways of working. Because right now, what happened with the pandemic is that a lot of customers disappeared. Now you were able to see them, and then all of a sudden they're not there anymore. So the use of technology will allow you to try to find the customers where they are and deliver the product that they want where they are, and not where they used to be. So that you always need to think about it in different dimensions. And then the last part, which probably is the most difficult part, but I think it's important, is trying to use your customer information and all the information that created without the supply chain or within the supply chain. Try to use that information to your advantage. Try to extract that information that creates value from it, because that is definitely going to be key for the next 5 to 10 years. And I guess companies are going to be able to use that information to their advantage and try to extract value from it are the ones that are going to survive and thrive.
Yeah, Thibault Dousson, and of course Dousson to Lenovo South Africa. Thank you for this morning. We're truly grateful to have you on board, and thank you for what you do for SMMEs South Africa. And as we do know, SMEs is the mainstay of our economy. It's the engine of our society. It's the only sector that's going to alleviate unemployment and drive job creation. So, as one of the major players, Lenovo, and you personally, Thibault, thank you for your contribution this morning. I know you've made a big difference to many, and it's about getting that extra edge to do bigger and better things. And I have no doubt that our attendees this morning will take something from this that will make a difference to them and their businesses in the way forward. And of course, to all our attendees, thank you again. Many familiar faces. We're truly grateful. It's because of people like you we can do what we do. So thank you for being part of us. Stay close to us. Let's see how else we can help you out there to achieve your own objectives and drive bigger dreams. But thank you for being part of the webinar this morning, and all the very best in the road ahead this year and beyond, of course. But thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, NSBC. Thank you very much, Mike, for inviting me. It was very cool, and I hope it was useful. Thanks a lot for all you do.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Guys, have a great week.